everybody, and welcome back to ABR TV. We got a jam-packed show for you. I'm your host, Ashley Brown. I'm joined by William Avery and Chad Cook, our basketball experts and aficionados here in the area. And if you haven't seen the work these guys and the crew have been doing, bringing you coverage, you need to check it out, AugustaBasketball.com. You will not believe the coverage. It's been amazing, guys, not just saying that. After each, on game nights, you need to go there because you can find out everything you need to know. If you can't make it out to a game, they got you covered at AugustaBasketball.com. And we got you covered tonight with a good show. We're going to look back at the guys' preseason top 10s and find out how they did with some of the teams. And at the end of the show, we're going to give you an updated top 10. We also haven't forgotten the ladies. We got a girls' Elite 8, the top 8 teams in the area. And in between that, we're going to take a look at some of the teams. We have a pretty good feel for where they are. And then some teams we're still trying to maybe get an identity for themselves. We'll have that coming up in the show. And I guess, guys, let's start. The preseason top 10. We came in here a few weeks back and ran through the list, and you had some teams the same. You both had Aquinas in that top spot. Yeah. But they've been they've taken a couple of losses that maybe surprised some folks.
Right. Well, obviously some Aquinas fans, and one in particular, a good friend of mine, Matt Scott, would probably say, well, they missed 16 free throws at Evans, and they got maybe hosed by the referees at Jenkins County. But that was not in the game plan. At the beginning of the year, we wouldn't have had Aquinas losing at Evans, and we wouldn't have had them losing at Jenkins County. So, placing them number one may turn out to be true in time. Lord knows what that combination of talent in the backcourt, it's very possible, but we may have overshot a little bit at the beginning of the season with that pick.
Well, we talked about that backcourt, and I know you mentioned to me in the Jenkins County game, that backcourt combined for 66, 36 from Ed Hill, 30 from Michael Scott. But they're still looking for that other guy, a la Michael Cummings that you and Ricky Moore had at Westside. They're still looking for that extra presence,
That's
right?
Right. You gotta have that third guy. If he's not scoring, he has to impact the game in some kind of way. Whether it's defensively, rebounding, setting screen. They need that third guy to come and give them something. Because in the high school game, you have good guard play, you can win. But you got to have somebody else giving you something. Like you mentioned, Rick and I had Michael Cummings, on nights where he would be a great help defender. Some nights he would be a scorer. Some nights he would get every rebound, But he put his stamp on the game every night in some way, and they need that.
Well, and also Aquinas fans, at least, don't worry because they will be playing single A schools pretty soon, but still, we thought they'd be a little better, not losing to Evans, not losing to Jenkins County, I guess.
Third guy would be one thing, or solid defense would be another. Give up 87 at Jenkins County, it's hard to win. You get 66 from your backcourt, that's usually enough by itself. So
when I heard that, when I saw that you had tweeted when I saw that they had 36 and 30, I was like, gosh, how do you lose when your backcourt combines for 66? That usually get it done. All right, another team that I think, Will, you had them fourth. I think you had them eighth. But right now, they've been the best team in the area, and that's Glen Hills, Chad. I'll let you start since you had them. You're probably taking a little grief over that.
Oh, man, I've been, my friend Santonina at Glen Hills called it from the start. He said, I wasn't tweeting about them enough. I picked them too low. Wait until you see what we have in store is what he said, and he was right. These guys have totally proven me wrong. I thought that last year they underachieved. I thought that last year the players did not play together, and I wanted to see this year that be totally different before I was going to say that they were one of the top teams. By the way, everybody told me they were the top team before the season began, so I totally missed that. Sneak peek, they'll be our number one team. That's no secret.
Their resume is pretty good at 5-0, and the teams they beat, no doubt.
That's right.
Well, the one thing you talk about that length and the fact that every player seems like they're 6'2", 6'3", 6'4", and also the cohesiveness of the guys playing together. Talk about that a little bit with Glen Hills.
Yeah, everybody wants to win and wants to play defense, but they're the most together team that I've seen so far, and Travis McRae is doing a great job of maximizing their talents. He's putting everybody in position to succeed, and they enjoy playing. Aubrey McRae has just emerged as one of the best players in the area. He always could score, but what he's doing right now, creating for others, that's taking his game to another level. And guys enjoy playing with him, and they just look like they're having a lot of fun out there, and they take pride, and you're not going to come in here and do what you want to do to them.
And the scary thing is, just about everybody on the team's a junior.
Yeah.
And all those guys are going to be back again next year.
Well, and to follow up your point about the guys playing together, you know, on game night, you mentioned game night, we bring highlights, and we can't bring complete statistics, but we try to get the leading scorer on each team. And against Athens Christian, one of the guys working for us said, wow, it's interesting, this Will Jackson has 30 points, and Glen Hill's leading scorer has, I can't remember what the number was.
20. Naquan Turner, I think, had 20.
Well, he actually had 20, but maybe it was halftime. But you know, there was a huge difference. But the difference is the balance and the playing together, and lots of guys contributing, and so it's good to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's kind of looking back at the top 10 later in the show. Don't worry, we're gonna, and you see there the rest of the preseason top 10. Later in the show, we're going to take a look at an updated version of the top 10 from our guys. We'll have that coming up. Now, let's take a look now at some of the teams we have. One of them, obviously, is Glen Hills. Some of the teams we've kind of got a beat on. We know what they're about in the area this year.
Yeah, you know, I'll start with Laney. I think they're on the right track. These guys have played a Double-A team playing a very tough schedule at Richmond, Quad A team. At neutral court against Butler, Quad A team. Played at Josie right after that, and then hosted Glen Hills, 4 of the best teams in our area, and then they played Savannah and Beach. So the first 6 games, all very difficult. They lose their second game to Butler after a red-hot Butler team, you know, kind of went crazy on them, and then they lose to Glen Hills. So since then, you know, they've won 2. I love the fact that they're so deep, they're so athletic, and they're so long, and they have good scoring. Lots of teams can be good defensively, athletic, and things like that, but if you can also put the ball in the hole, that's huge.
And I know you're big on their trio of sophomores that you talked about,
led
by Jay Sean Brooks, but the other guys have been playing well too.
Yeah, you know, those 3 guys, those 3 sophomores, you know, they're athletic, they're long, so Jay Sean being a 2-guard at 6'4", can't beat that size-wise, and then the fact that he can bomb it from anywhere. And then Jalen Taylor and Javon Walker, 6'6" sophomores that cover a lot of ground, that rebound, that run the court. That they don't need the ball. You know, they don't run plays for them. They're not calling for it in the post, but they are where they need to be. They get it off the glass. They get it in transition. And Jalen Taylor, I'm interested to get your take on this, Will. He's a much better shooter than I thought. At 6'6".
I think that's something he's just been working on this summer, because I hadn't seen that, and I've seen it this year. And I agree with you, Chad. He is a really good shooter, you know. And once he adds that to his game, that's going to make Laney that much tougher, because usually he's a guy that gets you garbage baskets and rebound and uses his length to block shots and things like that. But now you got him making 15-foot jump shots. That's going to make Laney a very tough team. And
I'll admit, Laney was my miscue, because in the preseason when you guys had him, I think 3rd, I remember thinking, I don't know, they won a state title, but everybody's gone from that team. It's all new players. And to bring in those young guys and get them to play together and play so well so early, because again, you mentioned their losses to Glen Hills and Butler when Coleman goes for 22, I think, in the 4th quarter. I mean, that's just insane.
When does that happen?
Yeah, when does that happen? So now another team, and I know you know them pretty well, we all do, is Evans. And even though they've been up and down, we kind of know what Evans is all about, right?
Yeah, they go as Foreman go. It's no secret. And everybody knows they're very tough at home. They play with a lot of energy. The student section is great there. They really give the guys a lift. And the games that Damian has played well, Evans has played well. It's clear cut out there. And I think the other guys, knowing he's their leader, they look forward to him playing well, and then they become confident and they can play well. When he's, you know, not doing his thing where he's supposed to, nobody's getting the ball in the right spot. The offense is real stagnant, and you know, they don't have guys, you know, other than him that they could just throw it to that can go get buckets. Cameron Mason, the young sophomore, he's a good shooter, but he plays off the penetration of Foreman, and Jacob Buchanan and Matt Epps as well.
Yeah, you mentioned they do have shooters, and they got a couple of guys with Epps and Buchanan that can go in there and get the garbage buckets at times.
Yeah, I counted them the other day, and they have 4 guys on the wing at different times. You know, they don't all play at once, obviously, but they can knock it down. So Kalon Lovett, Matlin Marshall, Patrick Lawrence, and who am I missing?
Cameron
Mason.
Cameron Mason.
So 4 guys that can knock it down, and what is so good about them is they also defend. Lots of times you have, your three-point shooters are maybe a little bit slow, or but those guys all get after it defensively. So they feed off of Foreman, and then Jacob Buchanan. I think you couldn't have a better. People talk about people's motor. He's got a great motor. He's going to give you a double-double. He's going to hit the mid-range jump shot. He doesn't need the ball in his hands. And, my favorite thing about him so far.
The statement. I was going to say, I want you to tell us what he said after the Aquinas game.
Well, yeah, after the Aquinas game, he texts me, and I didn't have his name locked into my phone, and so I get this thing, we beat Aquinas.
Yeah.
And so, I call this number, and he's like, hey, this is Jacob.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, congratulations. I'm sure you're proud of that. You should be. And he said, I wanted to beat Aquinas so bad I couldn't sleep last night. And by the way, he texted me again after the North Augusta. I'm sure you know this by now, but we beat North Augusta, and by the way, we have the #1 student section in the CSRA.
There you go.
So
well, that shows that they're also listening and watching the show,
Yeah, that's
so
right.
we appreciate that very much.
Yeah.
Those are some of the teams we got to be on, but I know you wanted to mention Josie as well. That's another team. Even though they might not be the top team like the Glen Hills, they're a team you kind of know what you're going to get when you see them play.
Yeah, Josie, they've beaten everybody that we might say they should beat. No offense to Harlem, no offense to McCormick, but those are wins that they should have gotten, and they did get. But they haven't gotten that win against one of those teams that we say is like one of the best in the area. They've been competitive, and I think that all comes down to Darius Williams, the sophomore. They know how to get points from him. He is the most, I don't know if this is even a term that people use, but I call him a natural scorer.
Yeah.
If he's open, he drills it. If they overplay him, he gets past them. Nothing looks difficult for this guy. And so, when you're going to have points and activity coming from him reliably, you get those wins that you need to get. But he's going to need some help, and he's going to need some of these other guys to step up if they're going to beat some of the top teams in the area, in my opinion.
Yeah, and Will, I know you've been big on Darius for a while. You're the one that kind of brought him to my attention over a year ago. How is his game this year compared to last year? Last year, I know he was coming off the bench and more of a role player. Seems like he's taken to being the guy pretty well.
He has, and he started off the season playing the point guard position, and they looked good the first 2 games. Michael Brown really came out and played well. I tagged him as the best-kept secret in the area at that time, but he's cooled off a little bit now. And talking to Coach Levi, now since Darius is scoring so well and the other guys are kind of cooled off, he's trying to find ways to get Darius back off the ball so he can concentrate on just being that primary scorer for them.
Some guys, not to get off too much on a different tangent, but some guys, though, are more comfortable with the ball in their hands. I know you played the 2-guard pretty much, but when you did move to point guard in college, you seemed like you were comfortable with the ball in your hands. Some guys just like that.
I wanted it, I just couldn't get it because we had another guy who was pretty good.
Yeah. But is Darius, do you look at that as maybe, not second guessing the coach, but what would you do? Do you think Darius is better with the ball or maybe trying to play him off the ball?
I think long term he's better with the ball because what will happen off the ball with him is you get a good defender. He's able to limit his touches by denying him the basketball. Because I like his ability to create for others as well. And, like Chad said, he's a natural scorer, so he's going to find a way. So one thing, I need that ball in his hand because he's going to find a way to get it in the basket. If he's off, I take the chance of him not getting it. Maybe this guy, gets it stolen or something like that. So I like it in his hands.
He is one of those incredible sophomores. There's so many good 10th graders around the area and around the state for that matter.
I'll tell you, before we leave Josie, I'll say, we can talk about the need for quality wins, things like that all we want. They get Butler at home Friday, so they'll have a chance to prove us wrong on that.
Absolutely. And, well, those are some of the teams. We know what we're going to get. There are other teams out there, and some good, some maybe struggling a little bit, but there's some teams out there we still haven't really found their identity, what they're all about. And one of the teams that's been playing pretty good at times that we don't is Butler.
Yeah, I mean, has played at times better than anybody in the area, maybe short of Glen Hills. And so we just mentioned how Josie hosts Butler Friday. And Butler, what I'll say about them is, they've lost 2 games to very good teams outside of our area. No shame in that. Now, they obviously wouldn't have planned to lose to Greater Atlanta Christian by almost 40. Yeah. So that's, it wasn't what they had planned. But, if Coleman doesn't go berserk in that Laney game and scored 22 points in the fourth quarter, then how do we look at Butler?
Yeah.
Because the other wins aren't necessarily against the best teams in our area. So they're definitely deserving. We'll have them very high in our rankings today.
Yeah.
But I think Friday will go a long way to telling us what we have there.
Now, Will, you think maybe Butler's kind of gotten away from what got them some of those big wins early? They've got a big kid in the middle that's one of the few seniors in the area, along with maybe Frank Booker, as far as seniors that are big-time players. Ronald Jones, maybe the guards have sort of gotten away from getting him involved in the offense a little bit.
I think they have, and like you said, he's the one guy that is a post presence that we have in our area that could really operate and do some things with the ball down there. And the guards have had so much success earlier with knocking down the three ball, that they continue to do it, and both of their guards are high volume scorers. They take a lot of shots to get their points. I love the way Butler was playing early on, and because they were going inside out, and Ronald Jones does a good job of finding those guys when help comes to stop him. And we, 2 weeks ago, I had Butler as the top team in the area, and mainly because of that win over Laney in the way they done it. But now that I've got a chance to watch him, they're living and dying with that three ball right now. I think they need to get back to, the basics, what they're doing, go inside out, get it to your veteran, your senior, your leader, and let him kind of dictate how the game is played.
If they do get that worked out, though, they're pretty scary because they have what we were talking about earlier with Aquinas. They've got the two, not that they have Ahmed Hill, but they've got two good guards, and they have that inside presence that can give them that third option offensively, and in some cases maybe the first option should be Ronald Jones. So they've got that.
And again, when these rankings roll around, they're going to be right there near the top.
Yeah.
So we're very impressed. I'll tell you one thing you mentioned about Jones. Will was at the Rockdale game, and I was only seeing highlights, and so I'm thinking Ronald Jones is really playing well, and it turns out he has like 7 or 8 points. I saw 4 extremely good post moves out of him, and so I'm thinking, wow, he's having his way, and so he can do it, and I would just say they probably need to give him more chances.
Let the offense grow through him a little bit. Who are some of the other teams, Chad, out there that we're still trying to kind of get a feel of?
Well, Aquinas. I mean, we talked about Aquinas earlier. They've got to probably play a little bit better defense, but no need to panic. I mean, I'll tell you what. The other teams, who do they play? Glen Hills. We'll be broadcasting the Glen Hills game Tuesday. The Glen Hills guys, maybe they might be wishing that we stop talking about Aquinas and saying there's question marks around them, saying that they're maybe not the #1 team, because the last time we said, we got Ahmed Hill mad, he went for 41 against Richmond. 40, Matt Scott, his AAU coach, called me the night before the game. He said, Ahmed told me to tell you he's tired of hearing about player A, tired of hearing about player B, tired of hearing about this team and that team. He's got something to show you guys tomorrow night, and he did. And if we can get the guy, they're playing it now, the 41-point outburst at Richmond. So, what do you think?
I tell you what, and those guys over at Glen Hills, they're tired of hearing about Ahmed Hill.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's going to be a good game,
isn't it?
That is going to be a good one, and that's Tuesday, and of course we'll be over there for that one. So that's going to be a fun one.
Yeah.
Any other teams you wanted to focus in on that we're still trying to get a kind of a take on what they're going to be as the year progresses?
I'll throw my team in there. Greater Augusta Independent Schools down there towards the bottom, and then we'll come back to West Side because I think and North Augusta. But my team, Greater Augusta Independent Schools. I had them, I think, #6 preseason. We're going to take them out of the top 10. And the reason is, #1, they don't play the teams that are in the top 10, so it's hard to give a direct comparison. But I'm making a deal with those guys that at least I'll try to persuade Will to put them back in the top 10 if they can prove they belong. And the way to do that is to start getting wins against these prep school teams. So, that's what we do. We play prep school teams by and large, and so beating a high school team isn't going to be good enough for those guys anymore. They've got to, and they play 2 of them this weekend. They play St. Ignatius over at the Border Bash at Aquinas High School. Lots of good matchups there. We'll talk about them in a second. And they play Gray Military right before Oak Hill and Ridgeview play Saturday, and we'll be broadcasting that at abrlive.tv. So that's kind of the path for my guys to prove that they belong with some of these other teams.
And the one thing with your team that we knew we had was we knew Austin Crown. He had 31 the other night. We knew Matt Miller can score. But Massenberger's really come on for you and provided a little extra scoring.
Yeah, 6'7", T.J. Massenberg, 14 years old, 8th grader, and he. It's interesting because he struggles against the prep school teams. Some of these guys are 20 years old. I mean, it makes sense. And so, you know, he'll have a 2-point game or no points, things like that. But then when we play high school teams, 16, 18, 20, 10+ rebounds, multiple blocks. So you can just tell he's going to be a great one. He's already a very, very good one. And, but it's going to be tough for him to translate that against some of these older teams.
Yeah, being so young, 8th grader, no doubt about it. Well, let's go to Westside, your alma mater. I'll let you start with them. They're still sort of trying to find an extra weapon, aren't they? They've got two because Quentin Phillips has really stepped up for them.
Really playing well right now. I think they're deeper offensively than they were last year. They got some guys, Rayshawn Taylor, that can put it in the bucket. The question mark with Westside right now is the strength of the schedule that they've played so far. I think 2 wins against Lakeside, blowout win at Richmond, and the only tough game they've had this year was at Thompson, which were down, you know, if I'm not mistaken, 9, late into the game and pulled away. But as I look at the duration of the schedule, they don't have, any really tough opponents. They don't play the Glen Hills, the Butlers, in the area. And so I'm kind of worried about them, Is that going to help them come into region play or not?
Yeah, they're going to pile up wins, but they're going to be battle tested and ready to go.
Yeah.
Because they're kind of in the opposite situation of Aquinas and Evans. Aquinas and Evans, as they get into their region, it's going to get a lot easier for them. As the West Side gets into it, based on their schedule so far, the region's play is going to be a little tougher.
Yeah. Well, and also, I assume their goals are to go deep into the playoffs.
Sure.
And, they went to the Sweet 16 last year. So even if they were to get through their region without a lot of trouble, I'm a big believer that you play the best teams you can possibly find so you can get better quickly. Buck Harris was on the show, post-game show the other night, and he talked about this time of the year being preseason for Laney because it's not region. So they're playing Butler, they're playing Glen Hills, they're playing Josie, they're playing Richmond at Richmond, and I think that philosophy is best.
Yeah, because your record doesn't matter. You just got to get into the playoffs. A great example is the team that you guys played in '95 in the state championship, Josie. They entered the state playoffs 10-14.
Yeah,
I mean, they literally
went to the championship
and went to the finals. And played in the championship game that year, led by Dion Grant and some of those guys. So you got to play that tough schedule. I agree.
But schedule's one thing, but I do want to say that they showed a lot. Westside showed a lot, being down 9 at Thompson. Not a fun place to play.
No.
Not an easy place to play. Frank Booker having a very tough time shooting the basketball, and he gets. You see one here, grinds his way in to get a basket here. He gets an offensive rebound basket here that seals it. He hurdles over a defender, and so finding a way to give his team the W. Got to give credit to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And Westside is off to a pretty good start, even though, like you said, maybe the schedule not as tough as Glen Hills or Laney's has been.
We just don't know how good they really are. They could be really good, but we just don't know.
We got kind of wait and see approach with that. Well, those are some of the teams that we still kind of getting a feel for here. But the great thing is we'll be covering them all, and we'll sort of get a grasp of them.
I get one more. I got to get the bottom in there because
Harlem.
Harlem. They've beaten. Some people have a little informal thing going, like best in Columbia County type of thing. So they beat Greenbrier twice. They beat Grovetown at Grovetown. Saturday night they host Evans.
Yeah.
Evans, the perennial best team in Columbia County, versus a team that is
wanting to get there. Want to knock
exactly.
them off.
And they're not, it's not just the Reggie Reed show anymore. And Reggie Reed's a very good player, by the way. But this kid here, Dylan Farmer, he missed one shot against Lakeside Saturday night. Scored 28 points. It's funny that Coach Chambers called me and he said, you guys said he missed one. Lakeside's stat guy said he missed one. Will Wheeler, I assume, said he missed one. And but we've got him down for 6 for 9 on 2s and 4 for 5 on 3s. I said, Coach, we were close enough. It's pretty good shooting, right?
Yeah. Well, and the one thing I noticed, it was in a game where he only had 16 early in the year, because he is a good 3-point shooter, and he had 4 against Lakeside. but there was a game where a team sort of took it away from him. I forget who they were playing, and he still managed to get 16 points and help his team win. And that shows me a little something there. When they're taking away your best asset, you're still able to get points and still able to contribute. I think that's big.
Well, Will talks about the stopping and starting, change of speed, patience on offense with a guard as being like the toughest thing to teach. And that's what Dylan has a lot of stop and start, mid-range. He's good off the dribble.
All right, well, and Harlem does have a big test coming up as they try to get to that next level, like at Evans, and again, the informal Columbia County vests, and I certainly play into that a lot.
Yeah.
I'll pit them against each other. That's going to be a good one to see. All right, now we are getting to what I've been looking forward to, an updated version of our top 10. We've already gone through the preseason and saw where maybe some hits and misses. Now let's look at the new version, the new top 10 here on ABR TV.
Surprise, up at the top, right?
Yeah, well, Glen Hills, they're 5-0. They've played a brutal schedule already. They've, I guess, won every battle, but certainly they've come out and shown that they're ready to play. And I love the fact that they have a chip on their shoulder about other teams getting credit and other teams. Yeah. I love that. And Santo Nino and those guys, they're competitors.
Yeah, and they've done everything that they're supposed to do. They've took care of everybody in their way and sometimes in great fashion.
And you know, one thing about their coach, Travis McRae, and we all know Travis pretty well. One thing about Coach McRae that is different, you know, a lot of coaches are a little brash. They will tell you about their team. That's not a bad thing, but he's a little more quiet. If you ask him, he'll tell you, but he's not going to come out and tell you. You almost got to pull it out of him. That might be good for them a little bit. That might be good that he's like that. What do you think?
He mentioned the other day, I asked him about the guys giving me a hard time on Twitter and things like that, and he said, something about, you know, I don't have to check the site because they tell me. So.
Yeah, and he's a guy that probably wouldn't check the site.
Right.
He's really gotten to be a lot like his dad, who of course is a longtime coach and athletic director in the area. He's gotten to be a lot like him, where he's going to go out and play his games, and all that other stuff can take care of itself. That nonsense, I guess. Which I think is kind of funny, him taking that approach. And by the way, I did ask the question when I spoke to him, who's better, Aubrey or Travis? Was he better or his son? And he actually, because Travis could play.
He could.
But he really, again, his nature, he was like, no, he's a lot better player than I was.
Good for him.
Which is neat. Let's look next.
Before we leave Glen Hills, not only have they played a brutal schedule, they have North Augusta Friday, they have South Cobb, good program out of Atlanta Saturday, and then the Aquinas game Tuesday. So hats off to Travis for challenging his team early and often.
All right, well, next, a team that you guys both had pretty high on your list in the preseason. They haven't disappointed, and that's we've talked about Westside. You've got them at number 2.
Yeah, and I honestly, a couple hours ago, I called Will. I couldn't speak to him because I was with my family. My wife said, hang up that phone. But anyway, I was going to ask Will, should we put Westside at 4? And the reason is just like, the schedule thing.
They haven't.
So in a few weeks, if they continue to run through the schedule and there's not a lot of quality wins, I might be arguing for moving some of these teams into that spot. But how can you argue with a come from behind win on the road at Thompson and the best player or one of the best players in our city?
At 3 and 4, you've got 2 teams that played a close game. Butler pulled it out, so they're 3. Laney's 4. Butler again trying to get a mix of who's going to get the ball, but they looked pretty good so far.
Pretty good. The talent is there, without question. They just got to figure out, what type of team they want to be. And in my opinion, I think going inside to Ronald Jones, letting him kick it back out, that's the team that I think will have the most success because you got to keep Ronald Jones involved. He does so much for your team, and he's your leader. Vocally, I mean, he really enjoys, like, He probably was more happy for Dante when he had 36 than Dante was. And when Marquise goes off, he's happy for him. So you got to take care of guys like that.
Absolutely.
He's a great teammate. And another thing, no other top 3 is better than that top 3 that I can think of off the top of my head. I mean, that is
there are a lot of 2s and a lot of 1s, but as far as 3 guys together, that's a pretty good group. And then you've got Laney at number 4, and that's a team, we're talking about teams that might make a move, even though they're already pretty high at 4. They could be making a move as these young guys continue to get experience.
They will, and that will play itself out with Laney and Westside on the same side of the region. I look for some very, very intense games to come in the rest of the season from those 2 guys. But Laney is starting to grow up now. One of the things when you go to Lane, it's going to be a hostile environment. They're going to be tough in there. But once these young guys figure out how to play on the road, which I think they're starting to do with that big win over the rival at Josie, I think they're going to be a dangerous team, and they're progressing faster than I had expected.
And at 5 and 6, we've got two teams that have huge home court advantages. They've split games this year. North Augusta would say we beat them worse, but but Evans is at number 5, and I think, is it because we know Kevin Kinney and that group's going to play some defense?
Will and I had Evans 5, North Augusta 6. Will had it reversed. We talked about it. I said, here's my logic, Will. Evans beat Aquinas as well. Great win.
Good point. Yeah, good point.
North Augusta doesn't have something like that on their resume.
Win,
Plus, most recent, Evans was able to win, and then you talked about Coach Kinney. I wanted to make the point where you have North Augusta winning big one week, and then 7 days later, with Coach Kinney having a little time to prepare, totally turns the tables. They go with the 1-3-1 zone. So the coaching. You mentioned the defense. Who knows which team's better, but that's the way we went.
And real quick on North Augusta, a team we might not have known as much about in the preseason, but we found out they got some athletes and they can play. T.J. Shepard, obviously the leader, but a pretty dangerous team.
They do. They're very identical to what Glen Hills has, except I think they're bigger than Glen Hills. Maybe not the depth Glen Hills has on the perimeter, but they try to get after you with their athletes and get easy baskets. One of the things that they haven't been doing, and I think that was part of Coach Kinney's game plan, the 1-3-1, is they haven't proved that they can make shots consistently. And against this Glen Hills bunch that North Augusta has coming up, you better find a way to make shots because they don't give up too many easy buckets.
There you go. Well, and now a team, I think, when people see the ranking, you're going to hear from some folks. But Aquinas goes from number 1 to number 7. But again, they have a couple of losses that are bad losses, I guess, for a team we had at number 1 anyway.
Yeah, well, two things. One is the 6 ahead of them are no slouches, so there's no shame there. And just got the loss to Evans, and they'll have plenty of time to come. They play 2 very good teams this weekend, and they play Glen Hills at home next Tuesday. If they go on a run over the next 5 or 6 days, we will definitely have to shake up these rankings. Same with North Augusta. Yeah. If they're able to beat Glen Hills tomorrow, they shoot up the rankings. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's all decided on the court, which is the way it should be. Right. Next, we got a team that did lose a close one to Westside, but they had Westside down 9 late, and that's Thompson coming in at number 8.
Yeah, they played Westside tough. Then they got a very tough road win at Hesper, which beat Evans, who's a good team. So you gotta put Thompson in there.
All right, number 9 on our list.
Well, Aiken only has 1 loss. It wasn't the best loss in the world. Spring Valley's a very, very good team led by an unbelievable point guard, P.J. Dozier. But at Aiken, they got blown out by Spring Valley. So
a Spring Valley team that lost some games in the preseason. We saw it's preseason, but still.
Yeah, they didn't look especially good at, but Spring Valley, I will say, has won all but 1 game so far. Looking good in South Carolina. But Aiken, it's no shame to be in the top 10. They've got a great 2-guard.
Sean Moore, man. He's a guy that we might should have given a little more pub to in the preseason. Oh, yeah. He's been great, and I think the one thing about them, they're well coached. Tony Harrell's a terrific coach. He sort of reminds me a little of Kevin Kinney. He's maybe not brash, Coach Kinney, I use that term, but Tony Harrell coaches that defense, and those guys get after it over there at Aiken too.
There's a lot of talent. They won at Strom Thurmond this past Tuesday, I think. So.
All right, and then finally we come with Josie, a team that we talked about earlier, still trying to find their identity, but they've got enough talent to be in the top 10.
They do. Really good team, have a great scorer in Darius Williams, but like we said earlier, right now they just don't have that quality win for us to move them up in the poll. But
get a chance Friday.
That's right. There you go.
They will get the opportunity. Butler, right? They got Butler on Friday. Well, that's it. The top 10, and I think the list is pretty good. I don't see, again, it's all decided on the court. These teams have gone out and played, and certainly Glen Hills has had the best resume so far. So they are number 1 on our list. Guys, great job as always.
Well.
Oh, we can't forget. What am I doing? we got to get the ladies in. I'm sorry. I would get in trouble here. The Elite 8 for the ladies. Let's run through that real quick.
Well, these first 3 teams we've spent a lot of time on lately because they're so good. They were ranked very highly in the preseason Atlanta Journal-Constitution poll. And, we put Laney up at the top. In my mind, that's all about the eye test. You look at this team, 6'5" Baylor signee, Khadijah Cave. She's athletic. She runs the court, and then 2 frontline players alongside of her, Simone Smith and gosh, I think it's Winetta Wright. I'm sorry if I get that wrong.
And Smith is another one that's being heavily recruited by a lot of schools too.
Well, you know, I was trying to get up to speed with Laney, and I was watching some highlights, and I see this girl shooting from deep, getting to the basket, dishing it, crashing the boards, and so I called Buck, Buck Harris at Laney, you know, because he's a good source, and I said, you know, who's the number? He said, oh, Simone. And I said, yeah, Simone's a hooper, right?
Yeah.
And Buck said, yeah, Chad, she's a hooper.
Yeah.
And so I trust Buck.
And she, to be honest, until Cave literally signed with Baylor, I think a lot of people gave Smith got more attention. So I mean, it's interesting that Cave has sort of come on so much.
And I think Smith fundamentally at this point is better. She can do a lot. Her skill set is amazing. She can do a lot of things. But if you're a recruiter, you look. Obviously, Cave has the most upside.
Yeah, that wingspan.
Yeah, you know, she has superstar written all over when she really started to pick this game up. But Laney is a tough team, and I enjoy watching them play. But I want to talk about the number 2 team.
Of course you do.
There you go.
You know, because I never got to do this with the Lady Patriots.
Right.
You know, Coach Huey has really turned this program around to see Westside number 2. You know, and that never happened.
No.
You know, never happened. And
what a run they made last year.
The Final Four. You know, the first time maybe they've been in the state playoffs in school history, and they get to the Final Four. So. Great job, Lady Pats. Keep it going. I'm enjoying this. I'm going to get out and see you all. Just keep winning.
I got a feeling he voted you guys number 1. I'm just saying.
Well, you know, the great thing is we'll decide that one on the court. 2 region games between Laney and Westside. And I tweeted out in the last week, who is teaching post play at Westside? Because Asia Gibson and Jemiah Bradley, they have advanced post moves, and I'm really impressed by them.
Coach Uchi's a football guy. I can see him teaching intensity and getting them ready to play. But like you said, those skills, you know, maybe he knows more about basketball than I knew about.
And then Gibson has a good short range jump shot. Bradley, on the other hand, she can do it all. She can shoot from deep.
She's a player. She's one of the best players in the area, and certainly will compete for all area and
possibly. What school
player
does she
of the
play
year.
for?
Westside.
Westside. There you go. Westside. All right, let's look at the rest of our rankings here as far as the Elite Eight go.
Cross Creeks comes in with a lot of you know, expectations. They have kind of just run through the competition, teams that maybe aren't as good as some of the competition that the other teams have played. So that's why we have them there. But you know, just as capable.
On a given night, they can beat anybody. Ashley Outler and company, they're loaded.
Brianna Bryant, they're very
real
very
athletic, real athletic group. I agree. I think on a given night, Cross Creek's capable of beating anybody. And Laney, Cross Creek, Westside. We always talk about all these talented boys teams in the area, but man, we've got some girls teams that can go.
The girls basketball is great, and I'm really enjoying getting up to speed. And Will, you're up to speed with one of the teams that is tied for 4th with the Greenbrier Wolfpack.
Yeah, Greenbrier is a really good team. Great point guard, veteran leadership, well coached. They got the trio, Run TMT. Taylor, McMahon, and Thompson. These 3 girls have been carrying the load so far for Greenbrier. And I was telling one of the referees, he was like, yeah, Greenbrier girls has Hesper tonight. You know, they're going to get a reality check. I was like, not so fast.
Yeah,
you know,
that's right.
They're better than you think. And one of the great girls also on the team, Mallory Myers, comes off the bench and gets 20.
She had 20 in that game. I saw that. Yeah.
So they're deep and they're loaded.
Yeah, and Kara Thompson, for a player that's, I think she's listed at 5'11". She's one of the few players I think is taller than she's listed.
Yeah,
but she can shoot it from the outside. She's real unselfish and spreads the ball. And you're right, I agree. Morgan Taylor's kind of the star, but man, they've got a good squad this year. And they're not the only team in Columbia County that there's some other teams that might give them a test, but they look like the best so far.
Well, yeah, and Taylor is a sophomore, right?
Yeah,
she's good.
She is a sophomore. I think Ed McMahon might be a sophomore
McMahon
too.
is a sophomore,
McMahon and Taylor.
And Myers coming up. She's a sophomore.
Wow, that's pretty good praise.
We'll be talking about them for a while.
Yeah. There you go. They're tied for 4th, and the other team at 4th.
Hephzibah, and I took heat from my partner and from the Hephzibah point guard for calling them a sleeper team. And what am I thinking? You know, any team coached by Wendell Lofton can't be a sleeper team. But they started off 0-3. The 3rd game, a loss to Greenbrier. Since then, they've beaten Greenbrier. They've beaten, I think it was Grovetown and Thompson handily.
Yeah.
They're very balanced. I did a thing on our website about Wimberly and Miller, the guard play, and then next thing you know, against Thompson, sorry if I say your name wrong, DeAndre Jordan scores 16 points. She's all over the boards. So they're well balanced, they're well coached. Never underestimate a Wendell Lofton coached team.
Yeah, and the interesting thing too is you talk about Grovetown. We'll get into the rest of the 8 here. Grovetown is a pretty good squad, but yet they lost their best player, Malia Kinsey, the real good point guard. She transferred to Briarwood Academy out of the blue, which sort of surprised me. You add her to the mix with Grovetown, and they all of a sudden are right there in the argument versus Greenbrier.
Yeah, and I may have missed on we may have missed on Grovetown. We're still getting up to speed.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go back through our continuing looking at our Elite 8 here for the ladies, the number 6 team.
Yeah, these two teams, Aiken and North Augusta. North Augusta's undefeated. Aiken's got 1 loss. That remains to be seen. I know you've got history with the North Augusta program. I'm pretty sure they'll play each other twice.
Oh, yeah, they will.
And that'll be big rivalry
big
stuff,
games,
right?
no doubt.
Yeah, so that'll get itself sorted out. But, Aiken's been good. They have 2 losses, but both I would call very much quality losses. They lost to Laney 71-66. You can't sneeze
that's
at
a real
that.
good loss. Yeah.
Right, yeah. And then they lost to Spring Valley 42-40, and they have a history of playing some good basketball there as well. And they'll play Spring Valley tomorrow night, Friday night, so we'll see if they can bounce back.
All right, and then let's look at the bottom. We've got Evans at number 8. And it kind of all starts and stops with Alicia McFarland there. She's kind of their go-to scorer.
Yeah, Alicia's is really good. She missed the North Augusta game, some dental work she had going on. But Jasmine Stone has really stepped up as well. She's long, she can shoot it, but she really looks to put her head down and get to the basket. And this Evans Greenbrier girls game is going to be really good. I know in the past we put a lot of emphasis on the Greenbrier Evans rivalry, but mainly because of the boys. But on the girls' side, it's going to be pretty good with some really good players going at it.
Absolutely, yeah. Greenbrier is the one team in Columbia County on the girls' side that had a little bit of a history back when they had Michelle Sweck. They made it to the Final Four one year. They had a great run, but it was the 4 years that Michelle Sweck was their point guard. When she left, they went back down, but now they look like they're back up with that group of sophomores and, of course, Kara Thompson. Well, that's our Elite 8.
You mentioned the Evans Greenbrier, and we've talked about the Evans student section, and one of the members tweeted us last night that just wait until the Greenbrier game.
So
we haven't seen anything yet.
Those teams, there's no love lost.
And I haven't been to one, but I heard, so I would definitely be in attendance.
That will be fun. Yeah, they give each other a hard time. Both crowds are pretty good. And as a matter of fact, don't be surprised if the Evans group comes dressed all the same. Like they might, if they think they're playing a team that's out in the country, they'll all be dressed like farmers or residents or whatever, and they'll do it up. It'll be interesting. That will be fun.
So maybe with Greenbrier, they'll dress as like doctors and lawyers.
They may. I'm not sure. I don't know what they're going to do, but it's going to be a lot of fun. And the great thing about it, folks, even if you can't make it out to the games, we want you to go to as many games as possible. Follow these teams, but if you can't make it out, of course, AugustaBasketball.com, ABR Live.tv. We're going to have so much coverage over the course of the season. Looking forward to it. As a matter of fact, Tuesday going to be a big one. We're gonna
you're gonna call the game. Glen Hills versus Aquinas. Will and I are gonna fight for that second chair. And I mean,
I think Will wants to get some popcorn and sit back.
I'm gonna enjoy this one and watch you guys.
Absolutely, but that's gonna be fun. But like I said, each week we love the fact that you guys are following us. Continue following us, AugustaBasketball.com. Follow the Twitter updates. We appreciate your input, whether it's players, coaches, fans, whatever. We love the fact that you're following us. Continue doing that. And, of course, each week we're going to bring you a show, and we're going to update this top 10. So if you think your team didn't get respect, they'll have a chance to earn it because there's some great games coming up over the next few weeks.
That's right.
Guys, thank you so much.
Thanks.
All right, that's going to do it for this edition of ABR TV. We appreciate you being with us, and we'll see you next time. Keep following us all year long.